Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown is fighting against the tide to keep his seat in a state that's seen growing support for Republicans.
The state has not voted for a Democratic presidential candidate since Barack Obama won in 2012. Polls show Mr. Trump with a slight lead against Harris there, according to Real Clear Politics. But the race for Senate is even closer, with Senator Brown now neck and neck against Republican candidate, former luxury car dealer Bernie Moreno. NBC News correspondent Ali Vitali joins us now from Canfield, Ohio. Ali, so Senator Brown has managed to keep his seat in Ohio for 2 decades, despite the state trending more red with each election. Why is this year's election possibly his biggest test yet?
Well, because you guys remember, Ohio used to be sort of the ultimate swing state, and now in the Trump era, it is squarely in the Republican column. That's what Sherrod Brown is running against, the dynamics here on the ground in a pro-Trump state. But he also has a proven path where he's kind of done this before. You talk about in 2012 when Ohio went blue for the last time. Obama only won here by 3 points. Sherrod Brown in that first election managed to win by double that. That 6-point margin is one that he's been able to maintain even in his last re-election in 2018. I remember when I was covering it on the ground here then, the idea was that his personality and his credentials on the ground here as a pro-worker, pro-union kind of senator were the thing that could push him over the partisan politics. It worked then. The question is if it'll work now.
So Vice President Harris and Governor Walz haven't been out campaigning in Ohio. Is Brown concerned at all about the impact from the top of the ticket? And what does he think he needs to do in order to win this time?
You know, that's probably ideal for Senator Brown because he doesn't want to talk about Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz, or really any other national figure. I asked him a few different ways about policy ideas that each of these presidential candidates have espoused, whether it's Trump on tariffs or Kamala Harris on the way that she's talked about the former president as a fascist. Brown repeatedly shut me down, saying he's not paying attention in that way to the presidential race, doesn't want to comment on it. And even when I asked about the path to victory in terms of margins here in the state, how close does it have to be at the presidential level for you to have a chance? Listen to what he told me about that. I've seen some reporting that you've told people as long as Kamala Harris keeps it within 8.
That was an accurate reporting.
Is there a margin?
No, I'm not sitting up at night thinking, well, if Kamala does this or if
I
Joe
know, but
Biden
you know
does
this
it.
state so well.
I do. But I know that I know what I need to do to win. I need to do what I've done my whole career, and that is stand up for workers.
And that pro-worker, pro-union message that Sherrod Brown is talking about there is exactly the one he was pitching last night when we were with him at a Teamsters town hall in Youngstown. That's an area, the Mahoning Valley, used to be blue for quite a while. Trump, though, really managed to come in and turn that area red. Sherrod Brown still believes that it's ticket splitters there, folks who want to vote for Trump but who also know him well, that could be the difference in his key Senate race.
Of course, worth noting, Ali, the other senator from Ohio is former President Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance. What else about the Trump ticket seems to be appealing to voters there and could give Moreno a chance to win?
That's exactly right. I mean, J.D. Vance, I think about as the next step in Trump's path through Ohio. I was on the Trump campaign following it in 2015 and 2016, sort of a front row seat to watching the way that he was appealing in this state with that kind of a message that was focused around grievance politics, but also a populist economic message that did appeal to workers in areas like this one where they've seen factory closures. They've watched companies sort of come in and then leave and go to greener pastures, even in other countries. That's something that Trump was able to ride to the White House in 2016, of course, in 2020. But it's also that same kind of message on the economy and on workers that Sherrod Brown has been so focused on. For J.D. Vance, the other side of the coin, though, is being able to ride that pro-Trump wave. I met a lot of people yesterday who were voting whatever party they were voting all the way down their ticket. That was true for Trump supporters who were voting for Bernie Moreno. It was also true for Democrats who were voting Kamala Harris and for Sherrod Brown. But you're going to need the crossover, not just for Brown here in Ohio, but this could be the key factor in deciding control of the Senate, too.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.